It's Nigel Owens here, ex-referee, now farmer, a part-time farmer with a small herd of, a bit bigger than I thought, to be honest, about 74 pedigree Hereford cattle, and that's including everything. That's the cows, the heifers, the calves, and the bull and the young bulls as well. And I am farming in rural West Wales here in the Gwendraeth Valley, which is in between the market town of Carmarthen and then the sort of industrial town of Llanelli. I sort of first came across Moocall, I think, I think it was on, when you're on social media on Twitter, you follow some for some other farms, and I think there was a farm in Ireland, I think, who I was following because they had a couple of Herefords as well, and I think they had sort of were using Moocall, and I could see that they were using it, and they were sort of, you could see then the image of the Moocall working, and I thought, well, that's very handy. So then obviously I inquired about it then, and I got around to using the Moocall myself then. And I, as I said, I don't use it on every cow, but certainly if I think something's going to be getting close and I'm not going to be around the farm or around the house during that day or that night, then I put the Moocall on then, and so that's what I sort of thought would be hugely beneficial, and it certainly is. The Moocall then, when I use it first of all, and this is no lie, it actually did save the calf's life because the calf was breached. I put the Moocall on, and it was going off, seeing that the cow was preparing, and I was going down and checking the cow, and still couldn't see anything happening, and sort of waited a bit again. A couple of hours went by, and then I thought there's something not right here, so I better check. So anyway, I checked, and the calf was coming backwards. So the Moocall actually did its job because the cow was preparing, but obviously because the calf was coming backward, there was no sign of anything happening. The time we actually got the vet out, because this was all pretty new to me, calving on my own, the vet came out, but actually got the calf out, and the vet thought, well, you'll be very lucky if it's alive because it's been quite a while trying to get it out. And actually, when the calf came out, it gave one deep breath, and we were able to keep the calf alive. And the calf is now here today as a 2-year-old heifer, Neely, who is ready to go to the bull in a couple of months to calve next autumn. So without sort of exaggerating anything at all, it certainly did trigger the events that day there is something not right here, because otherwise probably wouldn't have noticed that she wasn't showing any signs of actually trying to push and stuff like that, or showing any difficulty. So if the Moocall hadn't sort of triggered me to go and have a look, I probably wouldn't have been aware there was something. So it certainly did make a difference. I've got cameras in the shed, so I'm keeping an eye on them on the cameras as well, and I tend to use the Moocall then, particularly if I'm sort of not around the farm, if I'm away for the day or I'm doing something else in the day. So it will trigger then, me to sort of a look at the cameras, or if I'm not going to be able to get home in time, I can ring my dad or my partner or somebody then, or a neighbour, to go down and check that everything is okay. So cameras in the shed are hugely beneficial, but obviously if you're not looking at it at the time, and if you're not sort of at home, sitting in front of the monitor or sort of, looking at your phone all the time. And I think where it's very, very helpful, I think, is particularly a lot of farmers today have other work as well. So it's not just they're on the farm full time, they've got other work as well. And that's where it's very, very helpful then, is if you're away from the farm, you're doing your other work, you're in work, it can trigger you then to have a look at the camera. Oops, you're starting to prepare, and then you can put things in place, or you can then sort of have a look and say, well, look, no, everything seems fine. So it's very helpful in triggering really you to sort of, that you need to be aware now that things could be happening within the next few hours or something. It certainly is very, very helpful in that way for sure. It's pretty straightforward, yeah. I think it took me a phone call, maybe in half an hour, to find out how to sort of, adjust it properly, and sort of, you don't put it too high up on the tail and too low down on the tail, and that's just a bit of trial and error, I think. That is, so getting it in the right place. But it's pretty straightforward to use, and you can obviously you get the rubber strap with it then, which you can cut and adjust accordingly. So there's obviously so I think the Hereford tail is quite thickish compared to other cattle, but it's not so thick. So you can obviously cut and adjust it then to the type of cattle that you got, and the charging of it, and sort of is pretty straightforward and everything. So yeah, it's obviously when you get to the first time, you sort of read the instructions a bit, and trial and error to get it on the tail for the first time, but then it's very straightforward to use. Yeah, look, no, I definitely think the Moocall would be beneficial, particularly if you're a farmer who's not sort of there all the time. If you've got a lot of cows calving and you're there all the time, and particularly if you're block calving and big dairy herds, maybe, and everything is happening pretty much throughout the day, every day, and that somebody's about all the time, then obviously it's maybe not as essential for you. But certainly for somebody like me, I found it very, very beneficial and hugely essential as well, particularly when, if something's due to calve now this afternoon, but I've got a meeting in work, so I'm going to be away for a few hours, then I put the Moocall on, and then it'll trigger me then, look, I need to go home, or I can get somebody to go down and check. And this is not an exaggeration or a story made up. It actually did save that calf's life. It certainly did. Yeah, certainly for somebody like me who's got about sort of 20, 25 cows who will calve during the year at some stage, it's certainly been worth it for sure.